This video demonstrates how you can transfer data from your model to your schedule and then use user field graphs to support progress tracking. For this example, let's hide the equipment part of the model and focus on the main structure. Before we start, it's always a good idea to slowly move the focus time through the Gantt chart and visually review the sequence of construction. Now we're ready to interrogate our model and see which user fields can be used effectively for progress tracking. In this model, for example, the user field slab.dryweight can be used to pull the material quantities into our schedule. Similarly, the user field member part prismatic.dryweight can be used for steel truss elements. Now let's create a new task user field called steel quantity, and let's set the type to number. Then we can look for the resource user field for the dry weight for our steel trusses, for example, and right-click, hit copy values to associated objects. For the destination user field, let's scroll all the way down to our newly created task user field steel quantity. And then for the operation for multiple associations, let's hit sum so that Synchro adds up the quantity values. Now let's repeat the exact same process for the slab.dryweight user field so that we won't miss the quantities for our steel decks. Now let's customize the columns of our Gantt chart so that they include the newly populated task user field. Then we can scroll through the Gantt chart and quickly make sure that the values for the steel trusses and the steel decking activities make sense. Now we're ready to create our user field graph. Going back to Navigator user fields, expand task and check the box next to our task user field. We can change the color for each user field in case we're plotting different user fields on the same graph. Let's change the color to green for now. Now we can simply click on User Field Graphs from the Windows tab to show our user field graph. The size of the user field graph is governed by the pan and zoom of the Gantt chart. We can move our focus time through the Gantt chart to visually compare the quantity values against our 4D model. We can also copy our columns to Excel for further analysis. Before we do that, it's recommended to change the Gantt view from WBS to list mode, and then sort by start or finish date. Now we can hit Ctrl-A to select all of the visible tasks, and then right-click, copy tasks as text, and paste into Excel. For example, we can now create a column for the cumulative quantity of steel installed, and then plot that as a graph. However, keep in mind that all of these values are based on the design model, and you may want to add actual quantity values to your analysis. To do that, let's create a new task user field called actual steel quantity and set the type to number. Let's also change the color of this user field to red so that it's easier to see on the graph. Now we can check the box next to the task user field so that it's added to our graph, and then customize the columns of the Gantt chart to include this user field so that we can populate it directly from there. We can then populate these values with actual quantities as we are moving through our project and compare to the design model quantities. You will notice a thick black summary line showing the summation of the design versus actual quantities. In this case, we are probably not interested in the summary line, so we can hide this from our options menu. Again, you can export all of these values to Excel for further analysis if you wish to do so.